Well, guys, the Indianapolis Colts imploded again. And if it wasn't clear before, it is now. It's time to blow it up. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. My name is Andrew Moore, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host of the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, Drake Wally. Drake, what an embarrassment that game was yesterday against the New York Giants, coming in against literally the worst team in the NFL. And to lose, to give up 45 points to a team that was averaging 14 a game and lose in such deflating fashion, almost zero fight. And unfortunately, this has become all too common with the Indianapolis Colts for years now. Honestly, it felt like 2021 all over again. And Drake, if the Colts actually want to get back to a franchise that is looked at as one of the best in the NFL, I think it's probably time to clean house.
Yeah, unfortunately, this loss was a microcosm of the issues. I think that this loss really showed just how bad an internal culture issue can spread out onto a field. Okay, I mean, those guys. Jonathan Vilma on the broadcast said it. One team's here for the playoffs. The other team's here with 2 wins. But the team with 2 wins seems like they won it more. It just seemed from start to finish like there was more of a fire in the Giants, more of a fire in Malik Neighbors. I mean, we'll dive into it, but there is a lot that will be addressed. It's so bad that this last Week 18 game doesn't even really – it's not even on the minds of Colts fans. It's not on our minds as analysts. We're about to talk about what's on our minds. So –
yeah, it really is, Drake, and that's sad to think. And I would expect Lucas Oil Stadium to be, less than half full next weekend in a game that should have a lot of weight to it. And unfortunately, it doesn't, because this Indianapolis Colts team once again failed miserably in the biggest moment of the season. Obviously, we're going to dive into everything that entails. We'll talk about the game for a little bit today, but our focus of tonight's episode, guys, is the changes and what is wrong with this Colts team, what needs to change with this Colts team for it to even have a shot to get back to relevance, because it goes way deeper than the X's and O's, than players. It's a bad situation there on West 56th Street. But guys, we really appreciate everyone tuning in. It's going to be an air. We're going to just air it out tonight on the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast. So we appreciate everybody being here. Of course, we got the CFO. I knew he wasn't going to miss this one. Patrick is back and ready to rock and roll. Patrick, thank you so much for the super chat, brother. We really appreciate it. And I wouldn't expect anything else out of you, buddy. We like our guys still all over the place. Ballard next week, probably. Tear this whole front office and defensive coaching staff to the ground. Keep Reggie and Sperano. Fire the rest. Not holding back, Patrick. And honestly, I tend to agree with most, if not all, of that. And we're going to talk about the changes that each one of us would make for this team tonight. Patrick, thank you so much, buddy, for all your support. We really do appreciate it. We've got Truitt saying tick, probably talking about the bomb that's about to go off there, West 56th Street. We have Stats Math. Well, guys, this year's nightmare is over. It's officially draft season with no more hopes and aspirations for the team for the last week of the season. All stress is relieved, kinda. I mean, as Stats Matt knows very well, the Colts fans are very stressed out and very upset about what's been happening, and they should be, honestly. Paul Wilson, Pat was 100% correct on every single thing he said, and that's been something that has been noticeable over the last 24 hours, Drake. It's not only just Pat McAfee coming out and talking about this miserable Colts team. It's other former players, Darius Butler chiming in. I have seen, obviously Marlon Jackson made some comments. We've seen little things here and there from T.Y. Hilton, Robert Mathis, and I'm sure there's others out there too. It's not just Pat McAfee. A lot of former Colts players are pretty upset of what they're seeing from their former team.
Yeah, and I mean, these are guys that have seen success. All right, these are guys that know what a successful franchise looks like. Guys like Mathis played in the Manning era. Guys like McAfee played in the Luck era. I mean, they have seen success. And so just to see so much of a disdain for a loss, it's really interesting. And I think that it's impossible to ignore. We'll see what happens, man. But we do have to talk about the game. we do have to talk about the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit at least to really contextualize everything. Yim, well, boys, I think it's time to rip the studs off this bad boy and start fresh. You're not the only one. Sean Contwright is here as well. Now can we fire Bradley and Gus? May not be very far away from both of these guys going. We got Quintin. It is time to clean house right now. I also have Josh Stewart. I'm a season ticket holder and I'll be wearing a bag over my head Sunday. We need more aggressive GM and DC. Tired of the same stuff every year. Richie Dyer as well. Shane Stockton needs to go. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting episode tonight, guys. But hey, while you're here, be sure to follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts_SI on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Click that bell, turn on the notifications so you never miss us. And if you can't catch us live, no worries. Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. Please subscribe, give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you, wherever you're watching this live, whether it is Facebook, YouTube, X. Make sure you leave a like right now on the video. So Drake, let's dive into it. The Colts were embarrassed by the New York Giants yesterday, 45-33, officially dashing their playoff hopes for the 2024 season, And then honestly, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. They don't even deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs, in my opinion. It was just absolutely embarrassing. The effort that was put forth, the preparation that was put forth, the execution, and it really lands on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I've got the numbers here, Drake. 389 total yards given up to the New York Giants, 7 for 13 on third down were the Giants yesterday. They allowed 45 points to the G-men, and the Giants averaged 14 points per game before that. Made Drew Lock look like Patrick Mahomes out there. 17 for 23, 309 yards, 5 total touchdowns. Malik Neighbors, 7 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looked like Justin Jefferson out there. Drake, what the hell? What the hell did we witness yesterday, bud? Seriously, like, what in the hell? If we could cuss, I would say I would drop a bomb. But what the hell did we just witness yesterday? What did you witness from your eyes watching that abysmal showing from this Indianapolis Colts team?
It just seemed like there was no motivation, lack of hustle, now obviously some players played, right? Guys like Zaire Franklin, motor on the defense. I mean, he had 4 tackles for loss, people. Like, there were guys that out there that were playing, but it just seemed like nothing was going right. It seemed like the Giants, especially offensively, they just kept doing the same thing over and over, which that stat line is blown out of proportion. Drew Lock's completions, ladies and gentlemen, they were short. Okay, most of them were short and easy. All right, it's the missed tackles. It was the play to Darius Slayton, whiffed tackle, runs into the end zone. Malik Neighbors, whiffed tackle. Jalen Jones and Sam Womack and Kenny Moore getting their butts kicked by this guy. Kenny Moore had probably his worst game of the season. Okay, like, everybody was dysfunctional in this game. It was from top to bottom, offense, defense, even special teams. Okay, you're missing another 54-yard field goal. Matt Gay is 3 for 8, people, from 50-plus yards. This whole team sucked, top to bottom. They just sucked. They did not deserve to be on that football field. They didn't deserve to play an NFL team. They played like a college football team trying to play in the NFL. Okay, they just did not look good. They looked behind. They looked like they couldn't cover. I just could not get over the fact that Drew Lock came into this game with one of the worst stat lines you can imagine. 1 touchdown, 4 picks. Walks out with 4 touchdowns through the air and another on the ground. 5 overall touchdowns. Disgusting. Okay. You need to look deep at the defense in this one. I know Flacco did his thing and he fumbled and threw 2 picks, but man, they didn't do the offense a lot of favors, and the whole team really just didn't play well. I know Taylor had a great game, also had some awful miscues like we talked about on Bleacher Report, but honestly, disappointing, Andrew. I think there's a lot of things there's a lot of ways we can attack this. We have plenty of time to do that. But if there's one word, it's just disappointing, because this was supposed to be a win. This was supposed to be an easy game. You were also dealing with a team that was winless at home. I mean, for God's sake, the Colts had more victories at that stadium going into that game than the Giants did. That's freaking sad, dude. Shane Steichen, Gus Bradley, Ron Miles, Brian Mason, everybody, every coach, every player, even the ones that played their hearts out, they all should be ashamed of this. They all should be ashamed of it, and something's going to happen because of it, because it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it really is. And you said it beautifully there. I mean, it was embarrassing. They look like they didn't want to be out there, Drake. The defense definitely didn't, I mean, and miscues all over the place. I think the only player that I could say, probably did their job yesterday was Buckner. Even Buckner didn't have his best game. He really didn't have much of an impact on the game. Zaire was okay. But otherwise, it's just it wasn't good all the way around. We've got some super chats here we got to get to because Patrick is bringing out the big guns. A $20 super chat from the CFO. Thank you so much, brother, for all your support. We don't deserve it, but hey, you just keep bringing it, brother. Yeah, clear it, Drake. We need that for the CFO. Patrick, thank you so much, buddy. And Patrick is not pulling any punches. Colts need a new GM that will fire sale the team. Anyone still here from the Wentz and Ryan seasons not named Buckner, Nelson, Taylor, or Pittman, and not on a rookie contract should be gone. Oh, and toss AD and AR on the fire too. F it. I mean, those are strong words, Patrick. But I mean, I do think that if it's time to have some uncomfortable conversations, as DeForest Buckner said, it really is. You look at this team and it's it's the same bleep, different day, and it has been for years now, and that starts at the very top. And obviously we're going to talk a lot about Chris Ballard tonight. We're going to talk a lot about Shane Steichen, Gus Bradley, Anthony Richardson, all of that, but I mean it's not good there on 56th Street. Thank you so much, Patrick, for all of your support. We really do appreciate it, buddy. And Yim also with the $5 super chat. Yim, thank you so much for all of your support. Personally, I'm done with the AR experiment. Maybe not all his fault, but don't care. Also, serious question: who are some realistic GM options? So the second part of your question is a little bit tougher, Yim. I think I would say, if anything, go check out Zach Hicks put a piece out on horseshoehuddle.com. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Drake, when the Colts were had just lost to the Denver Broncos, talking about who his top GM candidates would be if Chris Ballard was fired. So check that out on horseshoehuddle.com. I'm trying to look it up right now. But Drake, what do you think about, we'll quickly touch on it. Yim says he's done with the AR experiment. What do you think about the AR experiment? Do you think the Colts should be done with that? Let's say if they move on for Chris Ballard, do you think that they should be done and should be complete blow up? Or are you thinking that do you think there's still a chance that AR might succeed with another GM, another coach?
I think I don't think you can give up on AR yet. I think that with that, the talent that guy has, the ball of potential he is. Okay, I know he has been absolutely god awful at times completing passes. Okay, but man, look at the culture of this franchise. Look at this kid trying to be a developmental quarterback inside the walls of an organization that has no freaking idea what the hell it's doing. I don't think you can give up on him. You give up on him, and you know what's going to happen. Another team's going to go grab him. They're going to develop him right, and he's going to kick everyone's ass. Okay, that's my hunch. Okay, I think you've got it right there. You've got the quarterback. You just maybe not, but you can't give up on him yet. Okay, not enough games, not enough time out there. I think that if anything from the Steichen, Ballard, Richardson, trio, if there's one that's expendable, it's Chris Ballard, because I do think it's harder to find a guy that can coach a quarterback and then a quarterback that has the skills that Richardson does. But one guy that sticks out to me is Louis Riddick. Everybody's been talking about Louis Riddick as a guy that's a GM candidate. That is just telling you how far out there that some of these are going. And if you read Zach Hicks's piece, I think those are more realistic options. But it just shows you how over the Chris Ballard era so many people are. So it's been a long one.
Yeah, definitely. I do have Zach's piece up. I was able to find it. Ray Agnew Jr., the Detroit Lions assistant general manager. He's a name that Zach named, which I think would be a really good hire. From all intents and purposes, the dude is all ball. And I think, he's somebody that has had a really big influence, not only with what the Detroit Lions have built, but with what the Los Angeles Rams before that. He was with the Los Angeles Rams and helped turn them into a Super Bowl contenders. So it seems like wherever Ray Agnew Jr. has been, success has followed. He also named Alex Hallaby, the Philadelphia Eagles assistant general manager, as well as Andy Wild, the Pittsburgh Steelers assistant general manager. So I'm sure we're going to hear more names in this cycle as it gets closer to time. Louis Riddick is one that, Drake, as you mentioned, a lot of fans have talked about. He's interviewed for a couple of GM positions, never gotten anything. So it'd be interesting to see, what comes of that. But there's definitely some promising names out there. Kind of just depends which direction Jim Irsay would want to go. But really appreciate your question, Jim, and a good one that we're definitely going to talk about more here, not only today, but as the season comes to an end. Richard Horton with a $5 super chat. Richard, thank you so much for all of your support. I'm finally at the point where Irsay could tear this down to the bones and start from scratch. It really can't get any worse. And Drake, I do think that it's not even that, the Colts are, like Richard's saying, the Colts aren't even, a team that's, 14, where the Giants are, or the New England Patriots are, where they know that they're in a rebuild. But at least there seems like there is going to be some sort of direction. Like the Giants are taking a quarterback at the top of this class. The New England Patriots, I think, have their future franchise quarterback in Drake May. The Colts don't have any direction. And again, it seems so much deeper than that, because obviously the Giants are still out there playing their heart out and trying to go play and executing enough to beat the Colts. The Colts can't even do that. So that's why I think it's much deeper than just, okay, we need a plan. We need these types of players. We need to change this strategy. No, it's a cultural issue with this team that probably isn't going to change unless you take out and go from top to bottom and clear the majority of this thing out and start from scratch, like Richard is saying.
Yeah, and Richard, thank you so much. And like Andrew said, this team, if you are going to tear it apart, think about this. You might tear apart a team that's 8-9, 7-10. That is a record of a team that going into the end of its second year with its head coach and quarterback combo. And I think 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and year 8 of Chris Ballard, that's a team that is stale from the front office perspective. Stale. Okay. Chris Ballard is stale. All right. And his leadership and his construction of the roster, it affects the coach. It affects the other players. Now, that's typically what you have. Now, this is a different situation. Like Andrew said, I don't want to use the word I was thinking of. It almost seems like a disease. It almost seems like something is just there's a litany of issues within the walls of that locker room that just cannot be. You can't just fix this overnight. You can't just fix this over a month or even an offseason. Man, this might be years of work before you can fix this. And unfortunately, you would have to remove the GM to start that change. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I think it can actually get worse, because it always can, right? But I don't know if you get worse than the worst team in the NFL, baby.
Yeah, definitely. So Richard, thank you for all of your support, and thank you so much for your question. We really, really do appreciate it. We've also got another one, Drake, from Matthew Sundberg. Matthew, thank you for all of your support. And Matthew says, show topic idea, which coaches need the boot now? We don't need to have that as a full-on episode, because, Matthew, we're going to talk about it tonight. We're still going to talk about which coaches we feel like need the boot, and what changes we feel like should be made right now. Now, I mean, obviously the Colts aren't going to fire anybody this week. I don't think they really should. What's the point?
No.
There's one game left, 1 week left. what's firing them right now going to do? They beat the Jaguars. I mean, who gives a damn? You know, so just might as well wait till after the season, wait and then have those guys clear out their offices then. But yeah, we will talk about that tonight. Thank you for all of your support once again. Final super chat that I think is on the docket, at least right now, Paul Wilson. Paul, thank you for all of your support. And Paul says, you sound like Ballard, the talent that guy has. He drafts all high potential instead of smash mouth football players. Pat was talking about AR. So I think, I mean, I'm not sure which comment of you were talking about with one of us sounding like Ballard. Maybe it was Drake.
Because I said it was AR has a bunch of talents, too soon to give up on him yet.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, I do think that Anthony Richardson does have the talent, and I'll kind of give my full speech about Anthony Richardson, whether the Colts should give up on him and everything, but I mean, it works out with some guys certainly, and not all players are going to be the same. You can't just take all smash mouth football players, because then you're a lot of times the ceiling isn't as high for those guys. You still have to bet on ceiling. It's a fine balance. You can't just go all in on potential. You can't go all in on production. There's a fine balance, and then the situation that the players get in. We talk about this all the time too, Drake. Whether, especially with like a young quarterback, the situation that young quarterback comes into means so much to the success of the franchise. We saw it in this draft class. Bryce Young, until they got a better coach and a little bit better culture. Now he's starting to kind of show things. CJ Stroud came into an organization with a really good head coach, really good culture, excelled right away. Anthony Richardson, obviously the culture is so up and down that can you get a full judge on it? Potentially, maybe not. Even this year's draft class, Caleb Williams goes into a terrible cultural situation in Chicago, and he hasn't been the greatest. Jaden Daniels, though, they've completely flipped that culture around, and they've done a lot of things to support Jaden Daniels. Not only is he a very, very good player, but he's been put in a very good situation to succeed. The same with Bo Nix. Bo Nix comes in, obviously has a lot of experience, but he's with Sean Payton. He's in a very, very good culture there in Denver, and you see he's in a position where he can go out there and succeed as a rookie quarterback. So again, it's a fine balance. You can't draft all for potential. You have to draft some that's on, to help you right now. But I mean, I can also understand why you go after Anthony Richardson at that point. And I don't have any, even looking back on it, I mean, I would still take Anthony Richardson at number 4, because what are you going to do? The teams don't think about, I'm not going to take him. I'm just going to tank for the next season. That's not what teams do. It's not realistic either. Well, who else were you going to take? Will Levis, Hendon Hooker. So let's that I think is Anthony Richardson was still the right pick, but they certainly haven't put him in the correct position to succeed. And Anthony Richardson hasn't done everything that he can, I don't think, to succeed as well. But Paul, thank you so much for all of your support. Really, really do appreciate it. We might just be talking about what's the super chats want all night here, Drake. We've got another from Patrick. Thank you so much for all of your support.
CFO, man, he's pulling his weight.
Patrick is saying they're going to be 8-9 or 7-10 on a third place schedule. Can you imagine what this team's record would have been had they beat Houston last year? I mean, not great, Patrick. So it's certainly not going to be a very good, it just kind of speaks straight to the overall picture of the Colts. And I think I've said this on the show multiple times, how overconfident Chris Ballard has been in his players, not being honest with himself, overvaluing guys that shouldn't have been there. Because like we said, they needed safety help. Julian Blackman's been a shell of himself, and Nick Cross, while he has shown, had some flashes, maybe there's a lot of bad that comes with that good as well. And I mean, we've seen the secondary get exposed. We've seen the depth at along the defensive line, especially a defensive tackle, get exposed. Linebackers hardly can't cover anybody except for Jalen Cardwise. So a lot of the issues that we saw, I mean, they haven't been able to overcome. And I think that's just one small part of this entire mess that the Colts are going through.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's the mediocrity. It's the finishing 8-9, 7-10, 9-8. Can't even get over 10 wins. This division this year, guys. I mean, the Texans are not doing great. All right, and they're in charge. And then you've got a complete pitfall. You have like the Jags suck, the Titans suck. Okay, they're so clearly moving on to a new quarterback. The Titans are. And look, I actually want to go back to something you said about Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury deserves an award for the way he has constructed that offense to fit the strengths of Jaden Daniels. That is exactly how Anthony Richardson's. That's what the Colts wanted with Anthony Richardson in his first year, is to put him with a play caller that understood what he can and cannot do. Steichen has struggled with that so far. Now, Richardson has also been all over the place, but you're seeing what happens when it's in a beautiful relationship, when that development is happening correctly. Year two will be a little different for Daniels, I think, because you'll have more tape on him. But, man, that's what it looks like when an offensive coordinator tailors an offense specifically to the strengths and weaknesses of his rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Patrick, thank you again so much for all of your support. Really, really do appreciate it. Paul Wilson coming in with another super chat. You guys are insane tonight, but we love it. Thank you so much for all of your support. Paul, again, saying if Shane can't fix AR, I doubt anyone can. Just my opinion. I agree he has talent, and I still love you, Drake. So, yes. And here's the thing, Paul. I mean, is Shane Steichen the only answer? I mean, yes, Shane Steichen helped develop Jalen Hurts, but at the same time, I there's an argument to be made that Shane Steichen really hasn't put Anthony Richardson in the best position to succeed. We kind of talked about it all, to start the beginning of the year, the consistent deep balls over and over and over again. That isn't going to help a guy that is putting all the onus on a guy who, yes, he throws a beautiful deep ball, but you're putting a guy that's going to have a low completion percentage in the first place. You're putting a lot of his throws on the hardest balls to complete out there, and you're having him just constantly do that, and then asking him to kind of overcome that and hit those on a consistent basis. I don't think that was a recipe for success from the very beginning. I really liked what the Colts were doing with Anthony Richardson last year, Drake, at the very beginning of the season. And I'm not sure why they didn't continue with that. It seemed like they did a complete 180, and then after the benching, things have changed, and they've incorporated more to the quarterback run game. They're not taking as many deep shots. They're trying to get Anthony Richardson into a rhythm, and I think that has worked. We see it obviously is working to an extent, because simply put, go look at Anthony Richardson's numbers before the benching and after the benching. Yeah. Much better after the benching. That's on Anthony Richardson for improving his preparation. His mechanics have looked a little bit better, but at the same time, Shane Steichen's also been putting him in better positions to succeed. So I don't know if that's necessarily correct that Shane Steichen is the only one that can fix Anthony Richardson. If you ask me then who, I really don't have an answer for you at this point. It would take me time to go through and really search of who exactly I would want, in that position. But I still think that Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson are tied at the hip. It's either going to be sink or swim for both of them. But I do think that there are other options out there that could help Anthony Richardson find his potential.
There are other options, but you're talking about going into, let's just hypothetically say that they can Shane Steichen, all right, but they keep Anthony Richardson, right? You're dealing with this dude who's under 50% completion for the most part. He struggled. He was told, this is the coach that's going to help you have a successful NFL career, and this is the franchise that's going to build around you to do it. And they didn't. And then all of a sudden now you got this new coordinator, this new coach that comes in, whatever. That probably, if Steichen's gone, guess what? It probably means JBC is gone as the offensive coordinator. Probably means Cam Turner is gone as your quarterback coach. I mean, they're probably, well, maybe. I would assume that
they would be. It'd be if Steichen's fired, the entire staff is gone.
It's the same thing with Gus Bradley. If or when he's fired, Ron Miles is gone. Charlie Partridge is probably gone. Like they're not just going to say, hey, one dude is gone, everyone else stay. We just need a new guy at the top, because that guy might not want those coordinators. He might not like what JBC does. He might not like what Cam Turner does. So I think that you have Richardson and Steichen stuck together. I don't think you have Richardson, Steichen, and Ballard stuck together. I think that the latter, the last one there, is the one that's the most expendable.
And Paul has one final point to make as well. So I'm just going to lump this one in here. Paul, you're an absolute menace.
You guys are
Thank
awesome,
you for all your support. But Paul says, last point from me is that availability is the most important quality to lead a franchise. You're not wrong.
Amen.
You know, you're not wrong there. You need to have, he definitely needs to stay healthy. The Shane Steichen definitely didn't do Anthony Richardson any favors this week by saying it was back soreness, when in fact it was back spasms. Much, much different. And if you've had back spasms before, like I don't know if serious injury is the right word, because when I think of serious injury, I'm thinking, you know, broken leg, something like that. But it's an injury that it's very hard to play through, especially for how now it's coming out that they were severe back spasms, and that Anthony Richardson could hardly turn his back any which direction without aggravating it. You know, that's a completely different issue altogether. That's not him being, you know, soft or not fighting through it. If you can't even move your back like that to be able to move, you're not going to help the team at all. Of course they're going to sit him. So you hope that can kind of, the treatment that he is receiving this week can get him to go against the Jaguars, because I mean, I don't care if the game doesn't mean anything. I want to see Anthony Richardson out there. I want to see Anthony Richardson, you know, playing well and getting as much experience as possible, whether the games matter or not. So, but Paul, very good point. And again, thank you so much for all of your support. Truitt with a $5 super chat. Truitt says, rip the Band-Aid off, dump Ballard. Gus, Drake said my take a full rebuild. GM who will pay top free agents. Now, I think the last part, Truitt, is a whole nother argument altogether, because it's not just Ballard. I think people need to realize that, like, it's not Ballard saying, oh, it's not. I mean, certainly it's part of it, but you also, like, the person that has to make the final decision on the money is Jim Irsay. And we've talked about this before, but Jim Irsay simply isn't as liquid as other owners. And so far, Jim Irsay hasn't been willing to give out the guarantees that it's going to take to get those top players. In this offseason, the Colts were in on Danielle Hunter. The Colts were in on Xavier McKinney, offering them very big, high number deals. I've gotten that, you know, told to me by multiple different people in the know. That was something that happened. The Colts did not match the guarantees that the Texans for Hunter gave and that the Packers gave for McKinney. They weren't willing to do that. And as such, guarantees are what gets top free agents in this day and age, you know, especially when you don't have a quarterback like a Peyton Manning or an Andrew Luck that's enticing people to come play with you. For that reason, guys are going to go where the money is, and that's simply what happens. So it's not just on Ballard of this. Certainly he plays a huge role in this. It's on Irsay too. There's gotta be a culture change and a change of how things are done from the very top. And you don't need to go crazy in free agency. I don't think that's the way to win either. But in order to get to the guys that you really want, the guarantees have to be there.
Yeah, and look, at Truitt, first off, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us every week and you know, for the super chat. Truitt, appreciate what you said, but it is going to be a hard as hell time convincing a top-level free agent to come to a crappy organization like the Colts are right now. That is not going to be easy. There might even be a situation if someone wants to play for a better organization where they might not even take the money the Colts are offering. Now, more often than not, you're going to go after the money because these are guys that have families, they have kids, they have people to provide for, right? So they're going to make as much money as possible. I would too, but for the guys that are going after a ring, they're not coming to Indianapolis. For the guys that are really good, that want a culture or they know what success looks like, they're probably steering away from Indianapolis right now. You know, so that's why a change at the general manager level, like we've heard might happen, may actually change how free agents in 2025 look at the Colts. Because right now they're probably going to say, well, Chris Ballard doesn't foster a good culture there and they don't know what the hell they're doing. Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to do all that even if they're offering all this money? That's just with dysfunction. It breeds ambiguity for that situation of free agency. So I don't know, man. If there's no culture change, I just don't know who you're going to entice in free agency. I don't.
Truett, thank you so much for all of your support, man. We really, really do appreciate it. The CFO is back with another super chat.
God, man,
Patrick, thank you for all your support, man. And Patrick says, I could see Anthony Richardson going the Tannehill route, go to his second team, and then he becomes decent enough, but it also worked out for Miami in the long run, I'd say. And yeah, really, it's again, situation risk matters so much with these young quarterbacks. Again, if Anthony Richardson goes to another franchise and it's dysfunctional, he's probably not going to work out. Anthony Richardson is still, people forget this, only 22 years old, and I understand that the roster around him is some people look and some people have said that the roster around him is good enough. Obviously, I don't think that's the case. I think they've shown that. People got to remember too that Anthony Richardson's only 22 years old, guys. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, those guys are 24, and I think Bo Nix is almost 25. So there's still a lot of development and a lot of time that I think. And we knew this was going to take a lot of time. I think what's definitely been concerning about Anthony Richardson is not taking a big enough stride in year two, which is very fair, and the continued injury issues, which is very fair as well. Both are very, very fair criticisms. So those are things that are going to have to be fixed no matter when. Then it has to start next year. And I'm not saying Anthony Richardson has to go out there and play all 17 games, but you can't have these little injuries just keep beating and banging at you where you end up missing 5-6 games a year every single year. That's just not going to do it. So we'll have to see what happens in that regard. But I mean, as far as his development is concerned, and again, quarterback development isn't linear, but you do want to see him taking noticeable jumps year after year, and I don't think he's done that this year. We'll have to see if that's in store for year 3.
Yeah, and it's concerning, but you also do have to look out there, and you have to look at a guy like A.D. Mitchell, who avoids contact, drops passes. You look at a guy like Michael Pittman, who has just to put back onto how severe AR's back injury might have been. Pittman has been lesser of himself because he's been playing through a back injury. Okay. It affects every single move you make. So, you're hoping that, because they've already said 2025, Richardson's our guy. They've already said that. Okay. You're hoping that you see a significant jump in 2025. Because I'll tell you right now, if we're talking a year later, Andrew, or we're talking like 9 months later, whatever, you're in week 7, 8, let's say that the Colts are, 3-5, God forbid 4-4, whatever, and AR has more picks than touchdowns, and he's still hovering around 50%. You're like, yeah, he's 23, but he's in year 3. Now you're starting to think this guy might not have it. So 2025, it's the pinnacle of years for Anthony Richardson. It is paramount that he improves, because if he doesn't, the doubt starts to go through the tube.
Patrick, you're an absolute menace. I'm not calling Richardson AR anymore. It's only IR from here on out. Jesus, dude, you're a menace. But keep the savagery going. We love it. I mean, Patrick, thank you so much, man. You know we appreciate the hell out of you, and we always will. You're the best. Matthew Sundberg again with another super chat. Matthew, thank you for all of your support. AR can improve, but we need better plays. Coach, run the damn ball, all of the above. We need I think the Colts just need a better culture, Matthew. If anything, there just needs to be a better situation around Anthony Richardson if you're going to get the best out of him and get him ready to succeed and put him in the best situation to succeed. That's pretty much it. So Matthew, thank you so much for all of your support. We really, really do appreciate it. And we talked super chats for a good 20 minutes, guys. You guys are incredible. But Drake, I want to ask you this question, and obviously I think we've really kind of answered it throughout this episode already, but just to kind of get a concrete answer, what do you think is the problem? I mean, this concrete answer, this is kind of going to be a complicated answer, but what's wrong with the Colts? What do you think the core issues are with this team? And then kind of say, how would you go about fixing them, I guess. So, well, I guess let's make that 2 parts. Let's first focus in on what's wrong with the Colts. What are the core issues with this Colts team that you've seen not only this season, but that have gone back really, really in the Chris Ballard era?
I think, and I can't remember who I'm referencing here, but I saw somebody mention this. It just seems like the guys that Ballard did draft, when push comes to shove, when the high moments happen, when you need a win, when you're facing a crappy team and you need to get a W, they don't raise to that occasion. They don't get to that level. I mean, you could even go back to the Carson Wentz game where he absolutely crapped the bed against the Jaguars. Okay. The Colts play down to their competition. Last year, they did it against Jake Browning. Last year, they did it against Taylor Heineke. Okay. I'm just saying that I think that it is a deep-rooted culture issue. I think that when you talk to, you ask questions to Shane Steichen, like, we've been hearing, this is paraphrasing, but we've been hearing that players are showing up late to meetings. And he's just kind of like, oh, well, that kind of happens. It's like, you think Sean freaking Payton says that to his players? You think Dan Campbell says it's okay to show up late to your meetings? You think Andy Reid does that? Winning teams, they win because they are disciplined. They have a routine. They have standards that are met. The Colts don't have standards to win. Okay, the Colts have standards to play football. They have standards to, I think Dan Dockich, I can't believe I actually used his name, but he said, this isn't a team that wants to win. They're a team that wants to survive.
Dan Dockich is an imbecile. We don't need to talk about that fool.
Awful, but it was one word that meant
roided
something.
Up, Humpty Dumpty looking dude.
But it was one word that did stick out, and it was, they're surviving. It's almost like they're just out there trying to do whatever. There's, like you mentioned, Andy, there's no direction. There's been a quote unquote plan in place. There's overconfidence from the GM in his picks. And then you watch and they don't produce on the field. Yeah, he hits some day 3 linebackers and Jalen Jones and Zaire and all those guys. But now you're starting to see it when they put that C captain on Zaire's chest every now and again. He's out there whiffing tackles. He's out there just not playing up to the standard he's supposed to. He got a new contract too. And then his teammate / podcast partner, EJ Speed, also isn't playing up to those standards. Guess what? Your best linebacker is Jalen Carlies. That's your best linebacker of the future is Jalen Carlies right now. So I just think that it's a culture issue. I think from top to bottom, it starts with the culture. You're not going to win. You're not going to get to the playoffs if you don't have a winning culture. Showing up late to meetings and treating that like whatever, that is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, it is a culture issue, Drake, and then that's, I think if you want to make it simple, you can certainly start there. From top to bottom. So it's kind of been, it's very ironic that it's something that Chris Ballard throughout his entire tenure has preached: culture. The locker room knows, have to have a good locker room. And while those guys are probably great people inside that locker room, and I'm not going to speak on their character because I don't know them, most of them personally, but it's very telling when the same things are happening over and over and over again and nothing's changing. It's because that the culture has been put in place. I do want to highlight a few other comments here because I think they really talk about the culture issue. Patrick again saying that absolutely a culture issue. They let the Giants beat them and they let the Titans almost come back to tie the game. Good teams crush those opponents. Look at what Buffalo did to the Jets this weekend. Absolutely. Stats, Matt. Comes back to what Pat said. Pat McAfee has said this. What he said is true. Players seem to be complacent, and that comes from a lack of leadership in every level, or from the top level being a dictator in leadership. Again, 100% true. Our good friend Luke Veerkamp. I'm sure we've all saw the old Trenches clip, but it's very sad that Z wanted to play a bad team in a big market instead of wanting to play against the best of the best. Shows a lot. All of that goes to the culture, Drake. This Colts team, and it's not everybody. It is not everybody, because you cannot tell me that this problem is housed with DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner does not have this problem.
I'll take him every day.
Quentin Nelson does not have this problem whatsoever. You look at those guys and they're the very top of the top. I would say even with his very bad game yesterday, I don't think this is a problem for Kenny Moore. I don't think Grover Stewart has this problem either.
Michael Pittman?
I don't think Pittman has this problem either, and I saw people kind of grilling Pittman on X for kind of some comments he said after the game. It's like, well, number one, I think people need to realize that Michael Pittman still every day deals with a stuttering issue, and talking isn't his best forte, but I mean, if you know Michael Pittman personally, how fired up he gets, I mean, he's pretty vocal. He's become pretty vocal in that wide receiver room. He gets on people.
Sure.
If this isn't an issue with them, it goes much higher than that, Drake. It goes to Chris Ballard. It goes to Ed Dodds. Even it goes to all the way down. I think Shane Steichen's comments were very telling as well, when he said, "Yeah, some guys are late, but we handle that internally." But do you really like because it's like, again, if the same stuff keeps happening over and over again, you're not freaking handling it. You're allowing it to happen, and if it's not just one person, because if it was just one person, I mean, it wouldn't cause the entire team to fall like they did yesterday. And it wouldn't cause the entire team to fall year after year after year, because that person would be out of there. It's multiple people, and you can't, unless you're in the building, you can't necessarily pinpoint who that person is. We'll never know, but it does fall on the head decision makers. It does fall on Chris Ballard. It falls on Shane Steichen. It falls on Gus Bradley. It falls on everybody. And as DeForest Buckner said today, changes have to be made. This can't keep happening. And there's going to be some very uncomfortable conversations that happen, this offseason, that should happen this offseason. So yeah, 100%. It is a cultural issue. It is something that that needs to change. But, and then this kind of gets us to kind of the final question of what needs to change for the Indianapolis Colts in order to make this into a winning culture again. And Drake, it starts at the top. I said this after the Broncos game, and I kind of even fought internally with myself, saying, well, does it make sense because the timelines aren't there? And I said, I mean, it does, because it doesn't matter about the timelines. Nothing's going to change if this guy's still there. Chris Ballard's got to go. Chris Ballard has to go as the general manager for the Indianapolis Colts. Nothing is going to change. This has nothing to do with the quarterback carousel, bringing in different quarterbacks. This has nothing to do with Andrew Luck's retirement. It all has to do with his philosophy and his culture. If one of your main pillars and one of your something that you're trying to make your organization that you are running, something you're proud of, you talk about a lot, is the culture, and you put out that garbage product and the culture is what is the issue, that means you're the issue, bud. Whether directly or indirectly, it's under his watch he's allowed this to happen. And it can't happen any longer if the Colts wish to go forward. You can't rely on just running this team back and expecting. And I thought Nate Atkins did a fantastic job in his article, to just kind of laying everything out. He wrote that Chris Ballard expected all of these guys coming off of career years, to kind of sustain those career years, running it back, and expecting Anthony Richardson to kind of just take care of the rest, make this huge jump, take care of the rest, all your young guys to take a big jump. That's not realistic. That is not being realistic with yourself. That's not being honest with yourself. That doesn't happen. That's living in fantasy land. And when he did that, it kind of showed that that's what we even talked about it, that we thought it was a bad move, roster building malpractice. I kept saying, and sure enough, it has been. Not only that, but I think it's also instilled a culture. The part of the culture problem is some guys don't feel like they're pushed enough, or guys aren't pushed enough because you just want to draft your own guys, you want to keep your own guys, you want to see them develop. Well, if nobody's pushing, Juju Brents and Jalen Jones behind them, you don't have vets pushing them or other guys pushing them, what's really going to make them get any better? What's going to make guys on the offensive line to get better, the wide receiver room to get better? Someone that did get considerably better this offseason, Drake, and into this year, Alec Pierce. What happened with Alec Pierce? A.D. Mitchell was brought in as competition, and it brought out the best in Alec Pierce. Okay, where the hell is that around the rest of the roster? And we've seen it in other places too, where I bet you if Jalen Carlisle was healthy for the entire season, I don't know if EJ Speed would be on the field, because Jalen Carlisle was pushing EJ Speed before that. He gets hurt and EJ Speed's still out there. We've obviously seen EJ Speed peak. We've seen Zaire Franklin hasn't been pushed. What's happened there? You don't see anybody on the depth of the defensive line. Like, you're bringing in, I know you're not really going to challenge Buckner or Grover Stewart, but there's no challenge to Taven Bryan. There's no challenge to Raekwon Davis. These guys should be challenged to back that up. And what has the product looked like? Hot garbage, worse than hot garbage. If we were cursing on this show, I would say how I really felt. And I'm sorry, I'm going on a 10-minute rant here, Drake.
No. Please preach.
But I do. Stats, Matt, you got it, buddy. Tight end room. Where was the competition in the tight end?
They don't have tight ends on the roster.
We're gonna roll it back with the same. And look, nobody in that tight end room has gotten better one iota. Instead, they've gotten worse. Okay, it's inexcusable. It's really inexcusable. And even with some of the top guys like Jonathan Taylor. He's a fantastic back, but he still makes those mistakes. Hasn't gotten many better in pass protection. Hasn't gotten better as a pass catching back because he has no competition. Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson aren't anything compared to Jonathan Taylor. He has no competition to work on those other parts of his game. So again, that all comes down to the culture. So that was my 10-minute rant on why Chris Ballard should be gone. Chris Ballard should be gone. Gus Bradley should be gone. There needs to be a different defensive scheme. You need to look heavily at some of the leaders on this team, Drake. I know Zaire Franklin just signed an extension. I'm not sure Zaire Franklin should be back. EJ Speed should not be back. Ryan Kelly should not be back. You're looking at there needs to be addition. Julian Blackman should not be back. There should be additions to the cornerback room, to the safety room, even maybe over Nick Cross. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you need to have get someone in the tight end room. You need to get someone in the running back room. You need to get someone to help some of the offensive line. Certainly wide receiver. I think Pittman, Pierce, and Towns are really good, especially when Pittman's healthy. But still, AD Mitchell certainly needs someone to push him. And then obviously it's the quarterback position with Anthony Richardson. You still need somebody there that I think is helping push Anthony Richardson too, but also helping him. You need a more talented Sam Ehlinger on your team, because Sam Ehlinger is doing so much to try to help Anthony Richardson. But Sam Ehlinger is never going to start over Anthony Richardson. You would need someone that's really trying to help Anthony grow in that room, but also pushing him, like what Matt Hasselbeck did with Andrew Luck. Now, and here's the thing too, Drake. I really don't think this is something that you can fix all in one offseason either. I've seen fans or even some content creators put this long wish list together of what needs to happen, and it is it's very silly to think all this can be fixed in one offseason. That's not how rebuilds work. Rebuilds take multiple years. This is good 2 to 3 years thing, I think, before the Colts you can consider, hoping the Colts can be relevant again. So when you're I would say maybe if you're absolutely nail everything, probably 2 years. It's gonna, but it starts from the top down. I think you give Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson one more year. But you bring in a general manager to evaluate everything for this team, and give him the autonomy to make changes. And if Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson don't deliver after year 3, you cut the cord, and it's time to start anew with a new coach, a new quarterback, and potentially have a fire sale, an even bigger fire sale after that. But nothing is going to change unless Chris Ballard is gone, and the culture changes. And then I think if you want you saw what the defense did. Who was the top guy on the defense all season long? Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley's got to be gone. There has to be major changes, and there almost needs to be enough changes that there is a complete and utter shock to everybody in this entire organization that it wasn't good enough. Whether it's Jim Irsay, whether it's his daughters that need to make that clear. Everybody, every single person in that building needs to be better, needs to look at themselves in the mirror and ask, am I doing enough? And if they aren't, then they need to be done away with. Thank you for your service to the Indianapolis Colts. Leave your key card on the way out. That's what I have to say, because it's time. It's enough of the same BS over and over and over again. It's time for the culture to be rebuilt from top to bottom. And if you're not on board with that and you're not fully invested into that, then you shouldn't be a part of the Indianapolis Colts. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. I just went on a 15-minute rant. I apologize, Drake.
No, that was incredible. Absolutely. It's what every fan, every viewer of the show, every player on the team probably shares your sentiments. The thing is, you hear from guys like DeForest Buckner. You hear from guys like Kenny Moore. You hear from guys like, even Ryan Kelly, when James Boyd from the Athletics so brilliantly asked him, hey, what do you think your future is basically with this team, is what he said. Kelly got teary-eyed, and one of the things he said was, it's been a long ride. It's been a lot of quarterbacks. It's just like, you can tell that guys like Buckner, Moore said, it's indescribable how bad it feels to lose to the Giants. Those are some of their best players, their anchors, their veterans, guys have been in this building for years. All they've seen is crap culture. All they have seen is just tumultuous nature of things. And yes, okay, how often do you have a franchise QB retire on you? Whatever. The best GMs pivot. They deal with the hand they're dealt. Ballard is stubborn. Ballard is too confident. Ballard is not active enough when he should be with the purse and the money that he has in that purse. Yes, you needed to keep your pillars. Yes, you needed to re-sign guys like Michael Pittman. You needed to keep guys like Jonathan Taylor. You needed to keep guys like Zaire Franklin. Sure, okay? A couple of those guys haven't really panned out. Guys like Zaire Franklin, don't get me wrong, he's making tackles like hell. He had 4 tackles for loss in that game against the Giants. It's the freaking Giants, okay? You're going to have some tackles for loss because they suck. They can't stop anybody. They couldn't move the ball. They sure as hell moved it on you. So this game, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of Colts fans. You got McAfee out there, which, by the way, when he starts bitching about the Colts, you've basically lost the culture. That is the dude that literally is the biggest name, one of the biggest in sports media, and he is all about the Colts. He even says, I'm not even taking my season tickets next year. Like, that is crazy. Like, Robert Mathis is even saying stuff. I mean, you've got guys that played for this team. The last thing I'll say is Marlon Jackson. Marlon Jackson, I implore people to go watch his rant. That is a guy who was a Super Bowl champ, okay? Played with this team long enough, made enough plays. He shut out Tom Brady with an interception that got the Colts in the Super Bowl. One of the most pivotal plays in history for this franchise. And you should hear the disgust in this guy's voice. It's just he can't even recognize the franchise he's looking at when he's saying these words. Like, I don't even know who I'm looking at. As former Colt, every player should be ashamed of themselves. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. This is a loss that will unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to get people fired. It's going to get people fired in that organization. But you're just hoping that the right people get put into those positions that are open. You hope that the right people, it's hard to say, but we have to say it on this channel. You hope that the right people are removed, and you just have to get a culture established, because all you're going to do is keep rinsing and repeating complete and utter mediocrity. And unfortunately, it starts with 2 letters, GM. Yeah,
it does. So, I mean, we'll have to see what Jim Irsay does, because it's still not a guarantee that Chris Ballard is fired. If I had to bet, I would say that Chris Ballard's probably gone at this point, just because of we
haven't said that on the show.
The complete outrage of the fan base, and I think Jim Irsay has to be seeing that things aren't getting better. And I know what he said in the past about Chris Ballard, but and if Jim Irsay doesn't make a change, I think that says a lot too. I think he says that he's fine with what's going on in that building, and I think fans are going to respond accordingly. Like I said, I expect Lucas Oil Stadium to be halfway full, if that, this week against the Jaguars. I've heard of so many people not renewing their their season tickets for one reason or the other. I've already renewed mine. I'm going to be there regardless. I don't know if I'll be at the game this weekend. We'll have to see. I'm supposed to be taking my dad, but if my dad doesn't want to go to this game, because he was kind of joking on Sunday, do I even want to go see this Colts team? If he doesn't want to go, I probably won't be going. But if he does, I'll be taking my father to a Colts game. You believe that? But it's going to be interesting. One of my good buddies who's been a season ticket holder for 20 years now, hardly ever misses a game. He's been to close to 200 Colts games. He doesn't even know if he's going to go to the game on Sunday. And that's reasonable. I would consider myself reasonable when it comes to this team. You got to think of all the other people that aren't as patient with me or aren't as level-headed with this team as some others. So it's bad, Drake. It's really bad within the fan base, and if no changes are made, the fans are going to respond accordingly. And again, if Jim Irsay doesn't make a decision, that means he's fine with all of this, and he's fine with the way the direction this Colts team is going. And if so, I don't think fans should necessarily want to, if fans are okay with that, okay, sure, spend your money how you want. I'm never going to tell you how to spend your money. But there's a lot of people that aren't, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to spend their money because of that, whether it's tickets, gear, whatever it is. So we said this a couple of seasons. We said this last offseason. We said this 2 off seasons ago when the Colts were picking Anthony Richardson in the draft, how pivotal it was. This is one of the true crossroads of this organization, where you can go one way, and the decisions you make over the next couple months can really shape this team for the next decade, or you can go the other way and go to the bottom, like the true bottom of the NFL franchise, which the Colts are, in my opinion, are on the cusp of doing based on the performances over the past 5 to 8 years. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about. We're already at the hour mark. We didn't even get to some of the stuff we talked about today because you guys were so awesome. And we've got one more super chat here to kind of close us out here tonight. But Patrick, if you're spending your wife's money, buddy, like you always say you are, don't tell her. Do not tell her about this, you absolute menace. But Patrick, thank you so much, buddy. You're the true CFO. Patrick says, like a few guys have said here, it also starts above Ballard. Grandpa Jim needs to step back and hand the team to his daughters. Look how the change in top ownership impacted the Commanders. And that's a very good point, Patrick. If this is Jim Irsay, starting to do that, it may be time for Carly, Kalen to have those tough conversations with Dad about handing over the team, and it may be time. Pete Ward may need to step in as well and have some of those conversations. It may take the guys and the people in Jim Irsay's inner circle to talk to him about making that decision. It may even, dare I say, if that's the case, and it may take Peyton Manning, it may take Jeff Saturday, it may take Tony Dungy, the closest confidence that Jim Irsay has. But again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We haven't even seen Jim Irsay since training. He came out briefly during the Dallas Clark Ring of Honor ceremony, but other than that, we haven't heard from Jim Irsay. So buckle up, Colts fans. These next few weeks are going to be absolutely insane, and there's a lot that's going to be decided. Like I said, Drake, pivotal crossroads for this organization, and the decisions that they make over the next probably 10 to 14 days, are going to shape, obviously at least 2025, but it could shape the next 5 to 10 years for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this is a point in this team's history where whatever they do in these next 2 weeks, it doesn't matter what the hell they do against the Jags. This loss to the Giants, ladies and gentlemen, they could beat the Jags 50-60 to nothing. Richardson could play, throw 4 touchdowns. It does not matter. All that matters is you absolutely ruined yourselves against the worst team in the NFL that had no business beating you. They had no business winning at home. That's all anyone's focused on. That's all anyone's going to be focused on is that loss to the Giants, because I bet you that Drew Lock probably has a lesser game in week 18. Okay, so we'll see, but expect changes. And if there's not changes, expect mediocrity. And then expect fans to not show up like Andrew said they won't.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our show for tonight, guys. Hey, we can't say enough about the level of support that you guys have given us today. You guys are way too kind. We love the passion from you guys. It's fantastic. It was great to talk and chat and just have a conversation with you guys. I know sometimes our show can be a little bit structured. It's like kind of how we do things, but tonight was awesome. And tonight we wanted to hear from the fan base. And I think it was you look around, there's a lot of Colts content out there that probably isn't the most professional or the most how I say this without sounding like a dick. Probably not the most professional, not the most clear-headed, but I'm very proud of our community for coming in here and you guys that show up every week are as Locked On says, our everydayers, having a really honest and insightful conversation about the state of the Indianapolis Colts. Shout out to our super chats: Patrick, Yim, Richard, Matthew, Paul, Truitt. I think that's everybody. And Patrick emptying out his bank account. We really appreciate
his wife's bank account.
We really appreciate it. Every single one of you and all of your guys' support. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials. Like I always say, you know the drill. Like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts_SI on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Make sure you click that bell, turn on the notifications. You're not going to want to miss us. And if you can't catch us live wherever you listen to podcasts, please subscribe. Give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you. And while you're here, hit the like button on whatever video you're doing it. Share it. We love it. We love making this community bigger here for the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. And guys, we're going to have plenty of talks. Thursday's episode is probably going to be a little bit different. Probably not going to spend much time on the game, but maybe we'll go into depth on some potential GM candidates, DC candidates, head coaching candidates. We'll see. It'll be a funner episode. We will touch on the game a little bit, but it'll be a different episode than our normal preview episodes typically go. Drake, I know you got a ton of stuff out there on horseshoehuddle.com for the people to read. Go tell them what they need to check out to try to drown their sorrows a little bit.
Go drown your sorrows in my risers and fallers in a playoff crushing loss to the Giants. So let me know if you agree with the guys that I did say did well. Not many defensive players. I almost put the entire defense as a faller, but I was nice. And then I, of course, did a piece covering what Darius Butler and Marlon Jackson said, 2 former Colts defenders, good Colts defenders, pretty pissed at their former team.
Yeah, definitely give those a read. Very, very good pieces by Drake. Myself, haven't even written my post-game piece yet. Trying to let it all soak in. Been too busy to do it, let's be honest here. But it'll come out tomorrow, guys. And you're going to want to check this one out because the title is How to Fix the Incredibly Broken Indianapolis Colts. So actually, How to Fix the Incredibly Broken Indianapolis Colts. Actually, I have it up in another tab here. So I'll basically talk about what I did tonight, just go into a little bit further detail on everything, maybe not go on as a big rant like I did earlier, but you'll definitely want to check that out as well as everything else. We're gonna have a lot of content out on horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL. And guys, like I said, we'll be back on Thursday night to talk about more Colts drama, talk about what's next for this team that we all love to watch, cover, and a lot of us bleed blue, so we're going to be talking about a lot of that. Stats Matt stat of the day didn't get read. I'm sorry, buddy. We'll read it next time. Time. If it was a super chat, maybe we would have got read. I'm just kidding, buddy. You do enough. But hey, everyone, happy New Year to all of you guys. Don't think about the Colts on New Year's. Just spend it with your loved ones. Have a drink if you drink. have a glass of water. If you don't, I don't really care. Eat some good food, watch the ball drop, spend it with your loved ones, but come back here on Thursday because we got a lot of stuff to talk about for Colts football. Only going to take it off for one night, for a couple of nights or so. Cheer on Notre Dame against Georgia. We're gonna make it to the semifinals of the college football playoff, but come back here Thursday night to talk more Colts football with Drake and myself on the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. We love all of you.